Hi everyone, it's Lissa, and I just wanted to get on here real quick to review the movie Send Help, directed by Sam Raimi and starring Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. So, I only heard about this movie maybe a month ago, but the second I saw that Rachel McAdams was actually starring in it and that it was a Sam Raimi movie and it was an original story, I was 100% in. And I can say, even though I was really excited to see the movie definitely surpassed what I was expecting it to be because it was the most just straight up fun that I have had in a movie theater in such a long time. Like the entire audience was on board, everybody was laughing. It was a, medium packed theater. It was just such a good experience. So it's a very simple plot where Rachel McAdams is at a corporate job and she is the one who kind of keeps everything together and holds it all together. And she's up for a position to become the vice president. But of course, the person who is newly in charge, played by Dylan O'Brien, just wants to hire his friends because they're going to work out so much better. And they make everyone feel so much more comfortable than her because she actually cares and she actually does her job. So he wants to use her just one more time before letting her go to go on this business trip they have to go on. But unexpectedly, there is a plane crash, and it is just her and Dylan O'Brien on the island. And you find out from the opening credits that she's someone who, auditioned for Survivor, knows how to survive, has multiple like survival books and what to eat and what to do if you're on an island. So she's literally the perfect person. The movie turns into this sort of, it's like psychological horror, but it's also really funny because it's Sam Raimi, and it's also really fun and occasionally really bloody. And so I've heard some people say this movie's not bloody enough, and I've heard some people say that it was really disturbing. And for me, it was just like right there in the middle where there was never a moment where you're taking it so seriously. But what really worked, for me at least, in the movie is that the characters weren't so cut and dry. And, from the first moments of the movie, I was 1,000,000% on Rachel McAdams' side. But that's also because I love her. And I feel like there's almost something wrong with you if you don't love her. But even through that, you do get aspects of Dylan O'Brien's character, whose name is Bradley, just like the perfect name for a character like that. And you kind of see little bits and glimmers of where he's coming from, but he never kind of loses that villain at any point in the story. And so I feel like you come to a movie like this really, I guess, to see the different ways that they include the gore. And there are some really fun ways, especially after like killing a boar. But it is so much about the performances. And for me, that's the main reason that I'm going, because I love both of these actors. And I feel like Rachel McAdams is one of those people who doesn't, people really like her, but I never feel like she has gotten her fair due. Like, she is still an underrated actress to me. She has so much empathy in everything that she does, even when it's a comedy. And I think that's why she works so well in a comedy, because she always empathizes with her character and she really understands what that person is going through. So whether it's like the character in Game Night or Eurovision, a movie that in a million years I never thought I would like. And the reason I like that movie is her. She adds so much to that story and she's so funny. She's sort of like a Rose Byrne to me in that way, where it's like I could literally watch her in anything. Whatever she's playing, she does it with all of her heart, and it can be a bad movie and I'll still watch it. But fortunately, this movie is not bad at all. And like when I think about her filmography and the fact that she just did, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. She can do anything. So whether it's like the super drama or the comedy or somewhere in between or like the horror here, this is a physical role and she never shies away from the physicality of this character. And so I wish, this came out in January. So obviously she's got no shot of any kind of awards in any way or capacity. But I really feel like she plays this better than anyone should be playing a character like this in this particular role. And then that takes me to Dylan O'Brien, who's someone who I also feel is like severely underrated. He was never an actor that I paid any attention to before because he was just in like the Maze Runner movies and I never really thought about it. But then it's like he did Love and Monsters, but then he did The Outfit, which I think is such an underrated movie that is playing on Netflix, I think, right now. It used to be on Prime. But then he was in the movie Twinless from last year, which I thought just like blew the top off of what I thought he was able to do. That performance was just next level. Playing twins last year really was the year of twins in movies, but I thought that Twinless was one of the best movies that I saw from 2025, and I didn't really hear that many people talking about it. He was also in Cattle Lake, which was a really good sort of like mystery story that went straight to HBO Max, but everything he's been doing lately is amazing. And to see him play a character in this that feels so different from the other characters that he's played, where he's just so obnoxious and over the top, but still grounded in a reality of like, that's a person who definitely exists in the world. And he does this thing with his laugh that is just next level. I'm just like, Dylan O'Brien, are you quietly one of the best younger working actors? So like, while everyone is over here screaming about Timothée Chalamet, I feel like Dylan O'Brien is actually doing really interesting things and playing very different characters in every role, unlike some people. So I just really love so much of this. Sam Raimi definitely takes it back to having a great original story. I like this more than maybe any movie he's done, just because I connected to that lead character so much. And I love Evil Dead 2. I like Send Me to Hell. I don't think it's not even close to as good as what this movie was for me. I love the Spider-Mans, but to see this really funny original story, and yeah, you could say he's going back to his roots here, but I just thought it was just a lot of fun, but also more than his other movies, or at least for me, it did feel like it was actually making some kind of commentary about the workforce and gender and how we look at people. And the story was so much like Triangle of Sadness, but what if Triangle of Sadness was horror and had even more comedy, I would say, than what Triangle of Sadness is. Though I think that movie is very funny and I love it. I know not everybody does, but this is, I guess, I would say a more watchable version of that kind of movie. You had some fun sort of like cinematography things that were going around, that were going on in the story. I can say the way the characters behaved and responded was definitely not always predictable. So in that way, I felt like the script really worked, and like there was one part of the story, one sort of like dreamy sequence, I won't give anything away, that I just thought that didn't work super well, but everything else I thought was just like spot on and just so much fun. So I know it's starting to go out of the theaters, but I would highly recommend, if you can still see this in the theater, to go and see it in the theater, see it with an audience, because everybody was laughing and everybody got it. And it was just a lot of fun. So with that said, I would love to hear if you guys saw Send Help, if you're going to see it, let me know. Everything about this was just like a breath of fresh air and not something that I'm necessarily expecting to see in the movie theater this time of year. So it was like a incredibly pleasant surprise. So let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing, and I will see you all soon. Bye.